Okay, picture this. It's a cold evening in London. The year is 1862. You walk into the most amazing ballroom you have ever seen. Crystal chandeliers are hanging from the ceiling. Men in black suits are standing tall. And the women, the women are absolutely stunning. But there is one thing you cannot stop looking at. Almost every woman in the room is wearing the same color, a rich, deep emerald green. It's on their dresses, it's on their hair ornaments, it's even decorating the walls of the room. The color is everywhere, and it looks like something out of a dream. The women wearing it look like royalty. They look powerful. They look like the most important people in the world. But here's the thing nobody's talking about. Not in the ballroom, not at the dinner table, and definitely not in polite society. That gorgeous green color, it's made from arsenic, one of the deadliest poisons on Earth. And those beautiful women, some of them are already dying. So how did this happen? How did an entire society fall in love with a color that was literally killing them? To understand that, we have to go back a little bit further. In the early 1800s, a new shade of green was invented in Germany. It was a bright, vivid, almost electric kind of green, a color nobody had ever been able to achieve in fabric before. It was called Scheele's green, named after the chemist who made it. Later, a more stable version was created. People called it Paris green because it quickly became the most fashionable color in Paris, which was, at the time, the fashion capital of the world. Now, the secret ingredient in this color was copper acetoarsenite. That's a long, fancy name, but what it really means is simple: arsenic. At the time, most people had no idea arsenic was dangerous in this form. They knew it was a poison. It had been used to kill rats and insects for years. But in a dress? In a pretty green dye? Nobody really thought about it like that. Scientists didn't fully understand how arsenic moved through the air, how it rubbed off on skin, or how it could slowly get into the body just by being near it. And the fashion industry was not about to slow down and ask questions, because this green, it was a straight-up hit. By the 1840s and 1850s, Paris green was everywhere. Rich women wanted it, middle-class women saved up for it, even working-class women tried to find cheaper versions. It was the color of wealth, of status, of being someone important. Department stores stocked it. Fashion magazines praised it. If you showed up to a fancy event wearing Paris green, you were basically the coolest person in the room. Nobody was asking what was actually inside the fabric. Here is where things start to get really dark. By the mid-1800s, doctors in England started noticing something that didn't add up. Young women, healthy women, women who had no history of illness, were coming to them with strange symptoms. Their skin was breaking out in painful, ugly sores. Their hair was falling out in clumps. They had terrible headaches that never went away. And in the worst cases, their organs were starting to shut down. At first, nobody connected it to the dresses. Doctors were confused. They tested for infections, they looked for viruses, they tried different treatments. Nothing made sense. But slowly, a pattern started to emerge. The sicker women were the ones who wore green the most, the women who attended the most balls and parties, the women who were the most fashionable. And then there were the workers. If you think the women wearing the dresses had it bad, spare a thought for the people making them. These were mostly young girls, some as young as 12 or 13 years old, working in hot, crowded factories. They spent 12 to 14 hours a day handling arsenic-dyed fabrics, cutting flowers from arsenic-coated materials, and breathing in green dust all day long. These girls had no protection, no masks, no gloves, nothing. Just their hands and their lungs, and a job they desperately needed to keep. History records show factory workers covered from head to toe in green dust. Their skin turned yellow. Their fingernails went soft and fell off. They coughed constantly. And one by one, they got sick and died. And most of the time, nobody in charge even blinked. Now, let me tell you about one specific case, because this one is the one that really made people sit up and pay attention. Her name was Matilda Schurer. She was 19 years old. She was a florist, meaning her job was to make artificial flowers out of green-dyed materials. All day, every day, she touched arsenic. She breathed it in. It got on her hands, her face, her lungs. By the time anyone realized how sick she was, it was already too late. Matilda's death was described in newspapers at the time, and even by 1800 standards, it was horrifying. Her eyes turned green. She was throwing up green liquid. She had convulsions. Doctors who were there said they had never seen anything like it. She was one person, but her story hit different, because people realized if this happened to a 19-year-old girl making flowers, what was happening to the women wearing those flowers in their hair at fancy parties? Newspapers started writing about it. A few bold fashion magazines even called out the trend directly, describing it as the dance of death, because women were literally dancing in ballrooms while slowly being poisoned. Here is the part that is genuinely wild. Even after all of this, after the newspaper stories, after the doctor warnings, after cases like Matilda's were made public, many women still kept wearing the green. Why? How does that even make sense? Well, think about it from their perspective. In Victorian England, a woman's social life was everything. The way you looked determined your place in society. The right dress at the right party could mean a better marriage, a better social standing, a better life. Looking poor or unfashionable, or like you didn't care about appearances, that could genuinely ruin your reputation. And arsenic green wasn't just a color, it was a statement. It said, I am wealthy, I am modern, I am someone worth knowing. For many women, giving that up felt more dangerous than the arsenic itself. There was also a lot of denial. The fashion industry wasn't exactly rushing to admit the problem. Some manufacturers actually pushed back against the scientific claims, saying the dyes were safe and doctors were overreacting. Sound familiar? It's a very old playbook. And honestly, for regular people without medical training, the connection wasn't always obvious. You didn't get sick immediately after wearing the dress. The poison was slow. It built up over time. So you might wear the dress 20 times before getting seriously ill, and by then you might blame something else entirely. Eventually, things did change, but not quickly and not easily. By the late 1870s and into the 1880s, the movement against arsenic dyes had grown big enough that it was hard to ignore. A group of scientists, doctors, and even some fashion writers kept pushing the issue. Some companies started voluntarily switching to safer dyes, partly because of public pressure and partly because new chemical options were becoming available. In 1900, decades after the warnings started, a famous case involving arsenic in wallpaper, yes, they put it in wallpaper too, finally pushed the issue into mainstream conversation in a way that stuck. By the early 1900s, arsenic-based green dyes had mostly disappeared from the fashion world. But by then, the damage was done. Nobody knows exactly how many people died from arsenic poisoning linked to Victorian fashion. The records from that era are incomplete. Factory workers especially, their deaths were often written off as illness or bad luck, not poison. Their stories were never fully told. So what is the real lesson here? It is easy to look back at Victorian England and think, how could they be so dumb? The warning signs were right there. But the truth is a little more uncomfortable, because the people living in that era weren't stupid. They were just human. They wanted beautiful things. They wanted to belong. They were told by experts, or people pretending to be experts, that everything was fine. And the people profiting from the trend made sure the conversation was as confusing as possible. That is a very familiar story, isn't it? Next time you see a painting of a Victorian woman in a gorgeous green dress, glowing under ballroom lights, looking powerful and elegant and totally in control, look a little closer, because underneath that beauty, the fabric is full of poison, and she probably has no idea. That is the thing about the most dangerous trends in history. They never look dangerous. They look like the most normal, most beautiful, most desirable thing in the world. That is exactly what makes them so deadly.
And that is the story of the deadliest dress in history. Wild, right? If this blew your mind, like this video, share it with someone who loves crazy history, and subscribe to my stories for more forgotten tales from the past that nobody talks about. New story dropping every week. You do not want to miss it. And my favorite question, drop it in the comments right now. Where in the world are you listening to my stories from? Every country, every city, I read them all. Thank you for being here. See you in the next story.